Hello, I'm Doreen Pietrantoni, an instructional technology specialist at Monroe #1 BOCES. Today, we are going to be talking about the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards, and we are going to focus on the cybersecurity concept area. The first thing I'd like you to do is think about, what does the term cybersecurity mean to you? And you can think about this in a way that impacts you personally, or in a way that you would have to think about it with your learners and in your curriculum. And I'll give you a moment to think about that. All right, we're going to pull back together. One way you might have thought about that personally is, how secure is your information out on the internet? How secure are your passwords, your banking information, your account numbers, things like that. That's how cybersecurity may impact you personally. In regards to your learners, you may think about, maybe your students are interested in a job in the cybersecurity field, or that they have an interest in decoding or encoding, and that might be a way to pull those cybersecurity standards into your learning. And then also thinking about keeping student information safe, what they put online, what they learn about how to protect their personal identifiable information. So there's just a few ideas. We are definitely going to be discussing more things later about examples and resources that you can use with your learners. So what we're going to do today is understand the why of the standards, explore cybersecurity concept area, brainstorm unplugged and digital activities that meet the standards. And by unplugged, I mean that you're not using technology to meet those standards. So let's focus a little bit on the background of the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards. The vision for the standards is as follows. Every student will know how to live productively and safely in a technology-dominated world. This includes understanding the essential features of digital technologies, why and how they work, and how to communicate and create using those technologies. When we think about why our students need to have lessons and learning experiences and activities aligned to these standards, it's because we need to have learners who can be productive not only during their school career, college career, but into their careers or professions, as well as life. There's a lot of these aspects of these standards that impact life, no matter what your learner might be doing in the future. So if you look at the top 10 skills that employers are looking for by 2025, you'll see that they are divided into 4 categories. We have problem solving, self-management, working with people, and technology use and development. What I think is really interesting is most of these skills are problem-solving skills. You have those analytical thinking and innovation, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative. And then reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. Those are all skills that our employers, future employers of our learners are looking for. And these standards help our learners get to be proficient with these skills. You also have self-management. You have working with people. I mean, these are all things that we are looking for in our classroom as well. And then technology use and development. I want to focus on that for just a moment, because one of these skills is technology use, monitoring, and control. The idea of that is monitoring and control is for your personal technology use. It's using technology and knowing how to monitor your use, who's having access to your information and your personal identifiable information, and how to control it if there is a hack or a breach of your information. You know what to do and how to handle that, and what steps to take to ensure that you reinstill the safety of your information. So I just wanted to point that out. Here's some more reasons why. If you look at the stats for New York State, there are almost 21,000 open computing jobs with an average salary of $105,000. However, only 48% of our public high schools teach computer science. So if we need our learners to get to these important skills that are deemed by their future employers, we need to make sure that we're upping how many high schools offer computer science, but also we are integrating computer science standards into learning at an earlier age. So thinking about these standards, these are K-12 standards, and they are developed in a way that they're built upon, right? So they're scaffolded and they're age appropriate as students are going through their school career, and they're applicable and relevant to that age band. So when you think about that, if we get our learners exposed to these computer science standards earlier, they're going to be developing these skills and having a better proficiency of these skills when they move on to college and career. It might also encourage more students to take more computer classes in secondary, as well as maybe pursue those careers. And if you look at these, there's hard skills and soft skills. When you look at the importance of those, you can definitely see you have those analytical skills, high-level IT skills, customer service, that's some of the hard skills. I love that they have writing on here because I think our learners need to understand that writing, even though we're using technology, writing is a very important skill that they need to have. And when you're in college and career, you're not going to be able to use emojis or text talk in order to communicate. And then we have those soft skills, that time management, problem solving, creativity, emotional intelligence, decision making. So those things are really important to think about, and getting our students to have a proficiency of these skills can start at a very early age as we integrate these standards into curriculum. So let's focus on cybersecurity. When we look at the standards, this is how we're going to read the standards. You have your grade band. So this example is K1, that's kindergarten, first grade, .cy, which is cybersecurity, and the standard number. We're going to dig a little deeper into that. Here is a specific example of a cybersecurity standard. As you'll see, there's the grade band, the standard identifier 46CY.1, and then the standard language. Explain why different types of information might need to be protected. What's nice about this is that it also has a clarifying statement. So for this particular grade band, this clarifying statement helps us understand, okay, how should I be implementing this into my curriculum? So the emphasis is on discussing different reasons that adversaries might want to obtain, compromise, or leverage different types of information. At this stage, students should be focused on general concepts. So it could be a conversation, it could be a chart on the wall that you're creating that students are discussing different types of information that might need to be protected. They might create a PSA, things like that. So it's just, what's really nice with the way that the standards are written is you have your identifier, you have your standard, but then you have that clarifying statement. All right, let's focus on the concept of cybersecurity and its definition. The cybersecurity standards prepare students to understand why data and computing resources need to be protected, who might access them, and why they might do so, whether intentionally malicious or not. It is important that students know how to employ basic safeguards to protect data and computing resources and how to appropriately respond if a breach occurs. So within the cybersecurity concept area, there are 3 sub-concept areas. You have risk, safeguards, and response. So we're going to have students understand what the risks are, what safeguards there may be, and then what their response should be. And I'm going to give you a moment to read the text that is in the blue area of the screen. All right, let's look at the definitions of the subconcept areas. For risk, risk is a combination of vulnerability, the likelihood that the vulnerability will be exploited, and the severity of consequences if the vulnerability is exploited. It is important to understand why data and resources need to be protected and how they might be compromised so the correct safeguards can be put in place. So understanding those risks and where we might experience more risk than others is very important to understand with cybersecurity. Let's look at safeguard. Programmers and individuals must know how to protect their data and computing resources with common safety measures. When combined, various physical, digital, and behavioral precautions can create a level of digital security. So we're talking about that safeguard. We're understanding the risks, we're understanding the safeguards, and now the response. When a security breach occurs, individuals must decide what actions to take. This takes into account what type of breach occurred and how to improve security moving forward. So I'd like to make a note of interest here that when these standards were created, the digital citizenship area had numerous standards, and the creators of the standards evaluated each concept area and looked at the standards that were created for that specific concept area to make sure that it was appropriate to be there. And many of the digital citizenship standards were moved into other areas that the creators thought made more sense. So with thinking about, safe passwords, understanding what to do if there's a breach with your information, putting in those safeguards, those physical, digital, and behavior precautions are all now pulled into the cybersecurity area because that makes more sense for the standards to be in this area. All right, let's delve into the standards. This is the webpage that the state has created for the computer science and digital fluency learning standards. As we look at this page, it has multiple resources, and the state will continue to add resources as they are developed. What I want to focus on, and I'm going to make this a little bigger, is that you have a document here that has all the standards with the guiding principles and the vision behind the standards, as well as the clarifying statements. You have a glossary of terms, which is, I think, a very important thing for people to open and understand and start using this language with our learners starting at kindergarten. And you have an Excel version of the standards. I can look at the standards by grade band. I have access to some examples, and then at a glance standard documents. What I'm going to open up first is this document so you can see it as a whole. Here are the cybersecurity standards. You'll see you have your grade band at the top. You have your standard identifier. You have your standard language and your clarifying statement. You'll also see on the left-hand column, you have your sub-concept areas. What's great about these standards is that there's not an overwhelming number of standards for each concept area. The cybersecurity concept area has 5 standards, and they're broken into different sub-concept areas. So for risk, there is 1 standard. And you'll see with the language that it increases the rigor of the standard as the students go up through the grade band. For example, in kindergarten, 1st grade, identify reasons for keeping information private. A conversation, you could use images, you could talk about stranger danger and align it to thinking about online. When we get to grade 4-6, you'll see explain why different types of information might need to be protected. So they're understanding what information might need to be protected and why that needs to be protected. And then we go to grade band 9-12. Determine the types of personal and organizational information and digital resources that an individual may have access to that needs to be protected. So we're digging deeper, right? As we get to the grade band 9-12, we have access to more accounts. We might even have bank accounts that we have to think about as organizational information and digital resources. So understanding that and understanding the impacts if that information is breached. So you'll see we have the risk, then we have the safeguards. You'll see in the safeguards, this grade band K1 for standard 3 doesn't begin until grade band 2-3, because that would be the appropriate place for this standard to start. When you look at this, I'm looking at safeguards in kindergarten, 1st grade grade band. Decode a word or short message using a simple code. Now, this could something that could be easily be done with a non-technology focused activity. You could be using images for word or numbers or shapes, and students can decode a message. When we get up to grade band 9 through 12, evaluate applications of cryptographic methods. So understanding the role that cryptography and data security play in events that have shaped history and the impact on the future is the clarifying statement. So look at the difference in those standards when you're starting at K1 and going all the way up to 9 through 12. And then here we have our response. For grade band K1, identify when it is appropriate to open and or click on links or files. When we go to grade band 4-6, explain suspicious activity of applications on devices. So understanding what that means, understanding suspicious data or links or viruses and malware, understanding that at 4-6. And then when we get to grade band 9-12, recommend multiple actions to take prior and in response to various types of digital security breaches. So understanding that, understanding when a breach has happened, and then those steps they need to take to get past that. So this is the standards document. It has all of the standards, the clarifying statements, everything you'll need to access. I actually have one printed out next to my desk that I use at least once a day. So let's review your grade band. So I'm going to show you a couple ways that you can access these documents and look specifically at your grade band. And then I'm going to give you a moment to do so. In this video, you should see there is a link to the New York State Computer Science and Digital Fluency Standards webpage, and you can just scroll down to the areas that I'm talking about and access them from here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the difference. So here's the standards, learning standards by grade band. So I'm just going to open up grade 2-3, and you'll see that it has all the standards in here and their clarifying statements. And I think the clarifying statements really helps us understand and begin to get a fluency with these standards. So this is a great document to use, and it has all of the standards in here. When I go back to the website and I scroll down to standards at a glance document, I'm going to go to the same grade band 2-3. And you'll see, let me just make this is a double-sided document if you printed it out, and you'll see that it has each concept area, sub-concept area, and the standards that go along with it. And then it does not include the clarifying statement. I also have this printed out and right next to my computer because it's something I can just do a quick glance at when I'm working with a particular grade level and have those standards right there for me to see. So this is something that would be great to have by your computer as well. It does not have the clarifying statement. So if you're new to these standards, you might want to have the document printed out that has the clarifying statements. If you're somewhat experienced with the standards, this document is great to have quick access to. So take a moment, go to this website, and you will be able to access these resources, look at your grade band, and just kind of explore the standards for your grade band. Again, there's only 5 for the cybersecurity area. All right, so you've been able to look at your grade band and start to look at the standards and the language of the standards for the cybersecurity concept area. All right, let's start brainstorming how we can integrate the standards into curriculum. So I have a few examples I'd like to share. So when we're looking at the different grade bands, I have an example per grade band. So for kindergarten through first grade, Standard 1, students could discuss what might happen if they post information on a bulletin board in the hallway of school, which would be considered a public area, about a surprise birthday party for a classmate, which is a private event. So just having a conversation with your learners, this is an unplugged activity, obviously. You could have a conversation, you could have it at the tables, you could have it a whole group, you could have it, elbow partners, thinking about different ways that you can discuss and have students really understand the difference between a public area and a private area. Let's look at grade band 2-3. This is standard 4. Students can make their own simple code with a partner and exchange a message. So this is something that could be done just simply with drawing, could be done with a computer program if you're using one, and having the students exchange messages. There's a lot of different ways to do this in a plugged and unplugged manner, but it gets students understanding coding, that decoding that takes place with cybersecurity, and that concept is important for them to start learning at a young age. Let's look at grade band 4-6. Standard 2, students could create a guide to everyday digital security safeguards for students in another grade. The guide could teach them how to implement different safeguards in the classroom and at home. So thinking about everyday security, digital security safeguards, right? So you can think about first have a conversation, a whole group or partners or collaborative groups, students talking about, okay, what are important everyday digital security safeguards? And then the students could then create a PSA that they would share with a different grade band, a different grade level. They could draw pictures, they could create a presentation. There's a lot of different ways to do that, and thinking about the safeguards in school, and then thinking about how that may be different or similar to those safeguards at home. All right, let's look at grade band 7-8, standard 4. Students could do a basic frequency analysis of a message encrypted with a Caesar shift to determine how easy it would be to break. So you have a Caesar shift or Caesar cipher, some people call them. So that's one of those wheels where the students are lining up a clue with the actual information. So maybe a letter of the alphabet to help build a word. There's a lot of great examples online how to do this. Definitely unplugged. Let's look at grade band 9-12, and this is standard 3. Students could analyze high-profile cybersecurity breaches from the perspective of competing audiences, including individuals, corporations, privacy advocates, security experts, and the government. So thinking about this, we all have heard about different security breaches with different companies. Like, for example, I know Target was hacked and they had my personal information. So then Target then had to contact me. So I'm the individual, but Target's the corporation, and then, I'm sure they had to pull in some security experts. So this would be a great way, a great collaborative project for your learners to get together and create presentations from these different perspectives of maybe one high profile cybersecurity breach, and then have them delve into that and do some research and share out that perspective with other students in the class. But it's a great way to look at that, and even pulling in the government and looking at, some of the laws that may accompany these breaches and hacks, and that it's important for them to understand. Also, it would be a great way for them to understand different careers that are out there as well. So please pause the video for a few moments to contemplate how you would integrate the cybersecurity standards into your curriculum. I'm sure you have come up with some great ideas, and I'd love to hear them. So make sure on the form that accompanies this video that you add some of the ideas that you have come up with to help integrate these standards into your curriculum. All right, so we've talked about the standards, kind of have an awareness of them and what they might mean and how it might impact our grade level. You've had a chance to look at your grade band. You've had a chance to learn about some examples, and you had a chance to brainstorm. What do you think are your biggest challenges for implementing these standards into curriculum? I want you to really think about that. And again, I want you to add it to the form that accompanies this video, because I'd love to understand your big concerns. Think about that and share it on the form. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for listening and completing the form. I hope you have a great day. If you have any questions, I have included my email in the form that you can contact me, whether you're part of Monroe and BOCES or not. If you have questions, send them to me and I'll be happy to help. Thank you and have a great day.